Yeah.
So it's Motzai, Shabbos, Vorchen, other Rishon, other Aleph, and we are up to the Tzadik Gimel, Omed Aleph, and we are learning a number of discussions between Rava and Rabba Bamori. And in fact, this is not the only place in Shas where Rava asks a question of Murray. So obviously, Rabbi Murray was a teacher of Rava. He was from Israel, and he came from time to time to Bavel. And we had another place where Rava asked him, "How do you know this? How do you know that?" There, for example, he asked, "How do you know that grandchildren have the same status as children?" And so on. We don't have too many halachas in Rabbi Murray. I think only one. But we explained yesterday the arguments between when Rava decided to argue with Rabbi Murray, depending where the source came from. But the last thing that Rava asked Rabbi Murray, Omale Rava asked Rabbi Murray, how do you know the following saying? The Amri Inchi people say, a person who owns real estate, his fat runs from him. In other words, you should circulate and associate with people who are very successful because some of that success might rub off on you. We actually had another Gemara that you should go with people who are matzliach because their mazel can also rub off on you. Amalei, he said, he told him, it says, Avram, that also Lot, who happened to follow Avram and escort Avram, had all this cattle and everything. So what do you see from here? Because he was associated with Avram, that's why Lot is successful in his own right. Amar Chanan said, din al if somebody is being harassed by somebody else and he says, Abish to punish that person, you will be punished first. The person who invokes the wrath of Hashem gets punished first. But you notice it says he gets punished first, which means that which you invoked will happen to that person, or the Abish will start looking at the person more carefully to see whether that person deserves to be punished. But you will be punished first for invoking that kind of justice. Remember, it says, I'm upset with you. You married Hagar, and I'm sorry upset with you that you are made to help out. Plus, she mounted me. Even it says, at least for the son to cry for sorrow. And we have about lines from the saying that if somebody prays to Hashem, invoke justice on somebody else who's bothering that person, but you will be punished first. We see that Sarah was upset with Avram, and Avram was later, but Sarah was punished. It wasn't even that's the way 27.
The sound's coming and going. I'm not sure if it's my end or your end.
I'm not getting anything either.
Right.
Certainly the other end.
Yeah, must be. Yeah. Yeah, the sound's gone totally now.
Me.
Yeah, no.
You don't hear me at all?
Now I can. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully that's better. If there any issue, please speak up. So it seems that Hashem will listen to your prayers, but you will be punished first. But when do we say that? Only in a place where you have where you have an alternative. Hanimili, the Eastlay did about it. There's a court that you could have taken that person to Din Torah, and instead you invoked Hashem's wrath. Then Hashem will punish you first. But if there's no Bezdin there and there's no rabbi, there's no alternative, then that's something else. And you have to pray to Hashem to help out. And in fact, we had another Gemara that anybody who is punished on account of your prayers, Hashem doesn't want you in Gan Eden with him. You consider a Rasha. Again, that's only where you had an alternative. You could have gone to a Bezdin, say of Shem Be'aver, and instead you decided to heap upon that person the wrath of Hashem. Then you get punished. And so says the Gemara further. That the person who davens to Hashem to punish the other person, woe is to that person because he'll get much worse than that other person because he gets it first. We learned they're both included, but the one who gets punished first is the tzayik, is the one who screams out to Hashem first. So, okay, says the Gemara further. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak said, "La'olam really al tihikilas hedyet kalabinecha." The curse of an ordinary person, don't treat it lightly. Avimelech killed Sarah. Avimelech cursed Sarah because, in a way, he was tricked because he was told that she was single, and that she was Abraham's sister. Turned out to be she was a married woman, so he cursed him for that kind of behavior because he almost, he almost had a relation with her. The curse was fulfilled by her children. What's the story? Shnema. It says in Pasuk, Hine Heilecha Sus. He said, Hine Hulecha Susinam. This should be a cover for your eyes. Amala, he said to her, Hoil the Kasisim men, you concealed from me. You didn't reveal to me that this is your husband. The Garam Delay Atzar is then you caused all this pain. We learned yesterday that different, all the holes were blocked and orifices were blocked and so on. Yiratz, and I hope I hope you'll have children that their eyes will be concealed, in other words, they'll be blind. When this kind of and it occurred, it says, when Yitzchak aged, but he's blind, he couldn't see. So that's what happens. That's what happens. So you should never treat a klol of a person like going back to the previous Gemara. So the idea is that, okay, all right. Amar Abba said, you should be from the harassed and not from the harassers. We have an expression in Gemara, you should be min loving those who are ashamed of people embarrass them rather than be the ones who embarrass others. In other words, if you accept the shame, you don't engage. We had yesterday, if somebody calls you a donkey, you just take a saddle and put it on. Don't engage. And it's much better that way than you should be the one to harass others. And there isn't a bird that's more harassed than a pigeon and a dove. And these are only birds that are kosher on the Mizbeach. Okay, now we'll go back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah gives us two sets of scenarios. One is you tell somebody, blind me, amputate my arm, amputate my leg. The din is that if that person does it, they're liable to pay you for all the damages. If they say, I'll manas lifter, I'll do it, and you'll be exempt from paying me any money. Nevertheless, you have to pay. That's scenario number one. Scenario number two is I tell you, rip my clothes apart. Rip my clothes apart. You did it, you have to pay me. But if I tell you I'm a nas lifter on the condition that you'll be exonerated, you have to pay me a cent, then they're potter. And we're going to try to understand what is the difference between these two cases. What's the difference if I tell you cause me harm bodily, or I tell you cause me, my possessions? That if you say here I'm a nas, a condition you're exempt, it works, and over here it doesn't. Says the Gemara. I don't understand the difference. Why in the Reisha, in the case when I say do me body harm, even though I say you'll be potter, doesn't work. But when it comes to financial loss, it does. He said it simply. You know why? Reisha, the Rava said, you know why in the Reisha it doesn't work? We don't believe any person out there in a sound mind is going to say to somebody, amputate my leg. It just doesn't believe it. Even if he said it, and even if he said on the condition you have to pay me a cent, we don't believe it. He might have been confused, he was angry, he was not thinking straight. Nobody's Michael forgoes amputating the leg or arm. Malay, so he adds back, you tell me because nobody will do it. So nobody wants pain either. So how can we learn the other Michael outside? Nobody's Michael the pain. And even if he says it, you don't believe him. And yet the time of the Braisa, he hakani hit me, patsani, wound me, I'm an aslifter, you don't have to pay me. Potter. They don't have to pay. Nobody really does it, so we shouldn't believe him. Ishtik Rava didn't have an answer. My Rava turned back to him and he said to him, Ravasi, tell me, Midish Milach, have you heard anything about this? Yes, I heard. You know what the reason is? Because when you amputate a person's leg or arm or blind them, it's not just them that they're being hurt. The entire family now has sort of a stigma attached to it. And this person has no right to cast a stigma on the rest of his family, so he can't be Michael even if he is. That's the reason why. So he can't. When it comes to your body, he can't be Michael. When it comes to ripping my clothes, no big deal. He can. Itma, we learned, in fact, there are three opinions. The reason it becomes you can't be Michael because it's affecting others and you have no right to accept Mechila on behalf of others. Okay. And then Rava said, we don't believe you. The reason why you can't be Meichel, we don't believe you. So both of them say when it comes to financial, clothing and all that you could, but not when it comes to himself. Rava said, we don't believe you, even if you say it. Rabbi Yochanan says a whole different story. He says, if I clearly say to you, I am Meichel, it's a valid Mechila. Definitely a valid Mechila. We're outside the Gimel and Aleph. We're about 5 lines above the white lines. We're trying to understand why, if you said to somebody, "Hit me," and amputate my leg, amputate my arm, even if I say you'll be meichel, you don't have to pay. It doesn't matter. You have to pay. And why by clothing? It does matter. By clothing, my exemption is valid, and we explained 3 reasons. Reason number 1 is because when it comes to body harm, amputating, you're affecting the whole family. And what right do you have to be meichel on their behalf? The other one is we don't believe you. Nobody wants to lose their leg or arm, so we don't believe you. But the third opinion is Rabbi Yechon. Rabbi Yechon says as follows: definitely, if I am meichel you outright, it helps. I have every right to meichel you for my clothing and for my amputate my leg. You know what I mean? And even though you might be doing an avera, but you don't have to pay me because I can be meichel. I cannot be meichel you in avera. I'll be I'll be favor somebody, but I'm meichel you on the money. But you know what our mission is talking about? Our mission is talking about a case a little bit different. Reuben says to Shimon, amputate my leg. Not that Reuben then says, Shimon, but you don't have to pay me. Shimon then returns to Reuben and says, he retorts, he says, tell me, Reuben, well, you want me to amputate leg? Fine. Am I going to be potter from paying you the 5 things? And he says to him, yes. And the question is, how do we interpret that yes? No, initially when Reuben said amputate my leg, he didn't offer to say, you don't have to pay me anything. But the other person asked, and he said, yes. How do we understand the yes? So the way Rashi will learn the Gemara is, the question is, the difference will be, was the yes said sort of in a question mark, or was it said as a statement? If the guy said, if Shimon said, "Will I be potted if I if I amputate your arm?" and he said, yes, as if to say, "What are you talking about?" Of course not. So if the yes is said in that tone of a question, then it's basically saying no. So sometimes yes is no, even though today we have all these ads, that says no is no, but the Gemara says sometimes yes is no, sometimes no is yes. So Rabbi Yechon says yes, hein shukalav. Sometimes yes is no, but yes lav sometimes no is yes. Depends how you sing it. Traces doesn't like that so much, and he says not a question of how you sing it. When a person, if we know that a person generally doesn't want to amputate the leg, even if he says yes in a flat tone, not in a question mark, he's being sarcastic. And because no, people don't want it unless he clearly says yes, you will be potter. But if he doesn't, he just says yes, then we read it as this is sarcasm, being caustic, and therefore you are not potter. And the same thing is in the case of no, as I said the Bryson. Hekani hit me, patani wumi, amanas lifter. Amalahain said yes. In other words, I say hit me, the other guy says I'll be potter, and I said yes. Harayesh hain shukilab. This yes can be interpreted as no, you won't be potter. Either because, like Rashi says, he said like in a question mark, yes, or like Traces because we don't believe, most people don't want it, so he says yes, he was being sarcastic when he said yes. And in the case of Krash Ksusi, rip my clothes, and the other guy says back to him, Amanas lifter while he potter. And he says, Lav, no. According to Rashi, Lav, no, question, which means yes. And according to Traces, Lav, no, because most people, if I initiated and I told you, rip my clothes, and obviously you don't have to pay. Why would I? What was the point of that? Hare Lav, Shugahan, and no means yes. In fact, we have one word in the Gemara, which the word ain. Ain sometimes means no, and sometimes means yes. It's actually one of the difficult Gemara when you're starting to learn Gemara on your own. It's confusing. When is ain yes? When is ain no? So we usually pronounce in is yes and ain is no. But I remember one of the first when we learned Kedushin, I can't remember what it says. We pronounce it. The word is one word. You can't have the same word meaning 2 opposite things with no vowels. How in the world are you supposed to figure it out? So he said it's one word. Sometimes it's a question mark, sometimes it's a statement. Let's say the word is really in yes. If it's a statement, it's yes. If it's a question mark, in yes, of course not. It's no. Same idea. Okay, then the Mishnah concludes. If I tell you, break my barrel, rip my clothes, you are chayiv. Unless I say the word al menas, on the condition. So we ask a question from a Brisa where there it seems you don't have to say on the condition. What's the story there? He says as follows. He says, we ask, if a person gives another person a donkey or a cow or any behemoth to watch for him, and then I say to watch it. I want you to watch it, but don't lose it. And lishma to watch it, lishma to watch it and distribute it. I want you to watch it and not distribute it to the poor. So it sounds like me, but if I didn't say that, that means if I say you can rip it, I said you can distribute it to the poor. In all of these cases, You don't have to pay, even though I did not add the clause almanas. And we want to know why our Mishnah you have to say almanas. Why isn't it sufficient to say rip my clothes? Why do I have to say almanas? If I tell you to distribute to the poor people, the reason why you are potter is because the moment I gave it to you, I'm no longer the owner of the money. It belongs now to the poor people. And therefore, but if you're negligent, who is going to claim it from you? Because every poor person that comes to you, you can say, I'll give it to the next poor person. Why do I give it to you? There's no particular claimant. So says the Ambar Lake Kash, it's not a question. Why does the Mishnah insist that you have to add almanas hada asr liyadi? Our Mishnah is talking about that it's already in the hand of the shamer, it's already in his hand, so he's a shamer, and then he goes and rips it, he won't be potter unless they add the clause almanas. However, hada asr liyadi. Over here it's talking about it didn't come yet to your hand, and I tell you, rip my clothes. But before he came to your hand. Because I told you, rip my clothes, so therefore I don't have to say almanas, you're potter. I'm the Rabbi Lishma does the what are you talking about? The pasuk ki sound like I gave it to you already, and then I tell you rip my clothes, and still the bride says you don't have to pay because I told you to rip it. I don't have to add the clause almanas. Elam Rabbi says Rabbi. We'll talk about already. It's from the shamer's hands. How did it? What did you tell the shamer before he took it? If you told him first to be a shamer and he took it, and then now after he's a shamer already, and it's in his possession, you tell him, rip it, rip my clothes, rip the part, whatever it is. The guy is still liable unless I clearly say almanas lifter. But if I told him when I gave it to him, rip it, then of course the guy is punished. I want to give it to tzedakah. There was a wallet of tzedakah, a purse of tzedakah, also the Pumpadisa that came to Pumpadisa after Rabbi Yosef, who was the gabbai of a tzedakah we had before, gave it over to this person to distribute to the poor. Gabbai who gabbai. Possible he was negligent, and also Ganav Ganvu, and then Ganav came. Now, because he's negligent, even though it's a Shem Echinim, he's not responsible because he was negligent. Ganav stole it, and Chayvu Rab Yosef made him pay. Once you told him to distribute the poor people, there's nobody to claim it. So who's claiming over here from this guy? If it's stolen by Ganav, which poor person has the right to say to him, give me my tzedakah? Maybe I'll give it to other poor people. Amalei said to him, Pumpadisa is different. Aniye de Pumpadisa make it kayitzluhu. The people of Pumpadisa, they work very differently. They work out an allotment, an entitlement to every single poor person. They're entitled you $1, you $2, $3. So therefore, there's as if it's already distributed to them. So each one of them has the right to say, give me my $2, my $3 out of that pile of that pool of money. Because it's already been ascertained how much each one should receive. And therefore they're entitled to collect. If that completes Perek HaChayvul, and from now to the end of the Masechta, it's all about Shinui, Koine, and Gezel and all that. Because remember, we lived in Samarvav, Rabbah came along and said that Shinui is Koine. It means if you steal an item and it underwent a change, it's no longer the same item you took, it's Koine. And he brings a pasuk, brings a brisa, brings a pasuk. The pasuk is the Heishiv es Gzela Asher Gozel. You should return the Gzela that you stole only if it's in the same condition that you stole it, not if it changed at all in any format. And then we in the Mishnah we learn right now, we have a Mishnah that says clearly if you made changes, you pay according to you don't give back the original item, you pay only the price what it was worth when you took it. Okay. And the only thing that the Rabbah said back then was he's not sure if it's Ma'atera or if it's Midrabbanan. And then we had Rabbi Yosef who says, okay. So, continue. Yeah. So that's the discussion. So we had about Shini. And there's an argument in the Shani, the Reish, and all that. We also, within Shini itself, we have two kinds of Shini. We have a reversible Shini and an irreversible Shini. A reversible Shini is called Shini HaChayza Libriyasai. And that's what's Kaina. And we practice Kaina Mahatayra. The Heishiv is like Zela, Asher Gozel. And then you have a reversible Shini. And that we're going to find is a machlekes whether a reversible Shini works. So it says the Mishnah. Sadigim base. If somebody steals wood, but awesome kalim, he turned it into utensils. That's a shinui. Semer wool, but awesome gadim. He made clothing out of it. So in these two cases, you don't take back the original item because it's no longer the victim's. You have to pay whatever the value was at the time when you stole it. That's case number one. Case number two. Gozal paramu ubedes. You stole a pregnant cow, the Yolda, but it gave birth in the possession of the Ganef. Rachel Tu'una, a sheep that was full of wool, and the Gizaza, and you shore the wool. So now you made a shinui. Case number 2. So Mishalim, you pay, you don't bring it back, you pay the value. But what value? The May Para, the value of a cow, Ha'imedus Lele. Sounds like a cow the day before it gives birth. The May Rachel Ha'imedus Gozes, or the sheep the day before you're about to share the wool. That's case number 2. Now here we have a big machlekes rishonim. The Rosh, the Balamur on one hand, Rashi, and the Mukhiyesh on the other hand, the Ramban, Taisus, and that is as follows. What do you pay? Rashi clearly says in the third line, in the case number 2, the cow itself, you return back to the owner. The cow hasn't gone to change. The cow was a pregnant, was a pregnant cow. The cow didn't change, but what happened was the calf is no longer inside the mother's womb, it's outside the womb. So the cow goes back to the original ganef, to the nigniv, to the victim, because it hasn't changed. What changed was the cow was pregnant and now it's no longer pregnant. So you have to pay now what the value of the cow was. In other words, for example, a cow on its own is $100. A pregnant cow is $150. And the calf, once it's born, is worth $75. So therefore, the cow itself you give back, and you have to pay the extra $50 because it was a pregnant cow when you stole it, and you're giving back the original cow. So what changed was the calf inside, but not the original cow. The Rosh, however, disagrees. He said that Rashi said that, and that's what Rashi is right here. The extra you pay for the excess of the value of the cow. The Rosh says no, you keep the cow as well. The cow also went through a change. It was a pregnant cow, and now it's no longer pregnant. So because the cow itself went through a change, you keep the cow and you just reimburse the person the full $150. The Rosh asks a question: why isn't this considered a shinui ha'chayzer l'briyasa, which is a very weak shinui? It shouldn't be a proper shinui. An animal gets pregnant again and again and again, or a sheep continues to grow more hair, more wool. So it's a shinui, it's a weak shinui, maybe, and according to those holders, that's not kind, it shouldn't be kind at all. So he answers, this is not called a shinui ha'chayzer l'briyasa. You know why? Because shinui ha'chayzer means that you changed it, but you modify whatever, you can revert it back to its original state. It's exactly the same item you took. Here, the cow becomes pregnant. It's a new calf. It's not the same calf that was there at the time when you stole it. That calf is gone. That calf now is independent. The hair that you cut off is gone. It's new wool that grew. That's not a shinui ha'chayzer. That shinui never comes back. Another big argument is you look carefully the wording in the Mishnah. It says what, for example, you stole a pregnant cow that was 2 months pregnant. The gestation period of a cow, let's say, is 9 months. So you stole a cow with 2 months pregnant, and then the animal, gave birth while it was in your possession. So the Mishnah seems to be saying you don't value the cow as a 2 month pregnant cow. You value the cow as a 9 month pregnant cow. It says as right before I met us lately, the night before, which is a lot more money. And some Rishonim actually paskin that way. You have to pay according to you assess the value right before it gave birth. Because at that moment, that was a shinui. That's when it became the ganef. So you paid that value. Just like the case we had, Rabbah, you stole a barrel of wine worth $1, and then when you increased the value to $4, you broke it. You paid the price of $4 because that's when you became a ganef. Other Rishonim say no. You pay the price as you stole it, a 2 month pregnant animal. So what's going on? What's the argument? The argument is, how do we understand the idea of shinui? There's 2 ways of understanding it. One understanding it is, in order to become a ganef, you have to make certain forms of acquisition. In fact, you have to make kinyanim identical to what you would use if you wanted to buy it. Meshicha, hagbah, dragging it, picking it up, all that kind of stuff. In order for you to become a proper ganef, and that you're liable if anything happens. Otherwise, we said, if I steal something, I move something in your house, I'm an intruder, I move it from one room to another, and then suddenly it breaks. Not because of me, it just broke, stopped working. I don't have to pay because I never became a ganef. But if I lifted it and then it broke on its own, not because of me, I have to pay because I'm responsible. So there's 2 ways of understanding it. One understanding is the moment you stole the item, you made kinyanim, it really should be the ganef. You know why it's not the ganef? There's sort of a buffer here, which is the pasuk says you need the heishiv as like there's a mitzvah on the ganef, incumbent upon the ganef to return the original item, and that prevents the kinyan of the ganef to make it totally his. Makes it partially his, that he's responsible, but not totally his. So if you learn that way, Then when it's no longer the same item that you stole, the kinyanim you made back then on this animal made is yours. So when did it become the ganifs? Retrospectively, from the time he took it, because that was when he made the kinyanim. There was a side issue holding it back. But the moment that side issue removed, it's retrospective, it becomes the ganif. So therefore, he pays as if it was a 2-month pregnant animal. The other school of thought says no. Those kinyanim do not work for the ganif at all. They don't work for the ganif at all. So when does it become the ganif? Only the moment when he made the shinui. That was when he was 9 months. That was when there was 9 months pregnant. So you pay the price of 9 months. And the basis for this argument is, how do we understand kinyanim generally? Who is the main, I guess, player whenever you make a kinyan? There's a seller and a buyer. Is the kinyan mainly primarily focused on the seller, that the seller has to give up, forego his ownership, and then the buyer easily takes it in? Or no, the main purpose of a kinyan is for the buyer to bring it into his possession. As long as the vendor is willing and he says, look, I don't want it anymore, then the buyer is basically doing the entire kinyan. Or is it actually the main part of the kinyan is to take it out of the domain of the vendor? And that's a machlekes. Because here you have a buyer who wants it, the ganef, but the vendor is not a willing seller. In fact, doesn't even know about it. He's not seller. If the main purpose, the main person who does if the main purpose of the kinyan is to bring it into the shus of the ganef, of the person who makes the kinyan, and the vendor just has to sort of agree. So the ganef, when he made the kinyan, he did 90% of the kinyan. The only thing is the vendor didn't do his part. So therefore, as soon as we remove that buffer of a heshish like zela, it was always the ganefs. That's why we go back to the time he stole it. But if you learn that the main purpose of a kinyan is to take it out of the shus of the owner, and the owner was not aware of it, was not a willing participant, so the ganef did nothing as far as ownership is concerned. The ganef did practically nothing. What the kinyanim did was only for liability. So therefore, when does it become the ganefs? Only the moment of the shinui. So he pays the price of then. Okay, case number 3. And case number 3 is Gozal Porter. You stole a cow, then his Abra fell pregnant in the possession of the ganef. Etzlay by the ganef. The Yolda gave birth to the ganef. Again, there was a shina here. Rachel v'niten etzlay, a sheep that didn't have any wool, and it grew wool by the ganef. And short. Mishalem kishas. All the cases you pay not, the wool with the wool on. You pay the price. What it was when you took it, which was without minus the wool, wasn't pregnant. So that cloud is the rule. You pay the price of when you stole it. According to those who say, which I told you, they say that you pay the price of the day before it gave birth. They learned that this last clause in the Mishnah is only referring to case number 3, not to case number 2. Okay, says the Gemara now. Amri, the Mishnah says, Eitzim va'asan kelim. You stole, let's say, logs, and you stole wood, and you turned it into a vessel. That's treated as a shinui, and therefore the ganef keeps it. What about shifon? You took a log and you smoothed out, a piece of wood. You're smoothing it out. It seems from our Mishnah that smoothing out itself is not a process called shinui. Loy, semen, or say wool. But also, they took wool. You made it into clothing. You made a sweater out of it, something. Livnon. What about if you just washed it properly? Loy, it's not considered a change. That's what it seems from our Mishnah. I have a problem. Why have a problem? What I mean, look, but I say, you stole, let's say, a log of shifon. All you did was smooth it out. Abani stone the sister, and you made it smooth as well. Semen, but leaving no wool, and you cleansed it, you washed it out. Pished and flax vinegar, you cleaned it. Mishal and pshaz, all considered shinuyim. Now, our Mishnah can't agree with the Brisa. Why not? Because taking wood and turning it into a vessel is stage 2. Stage 1 is you took the log and turned it into wood. So, why does the Mishnah count that as a shinui? Seems like you did stage 1, but we don't recognize that as a shinui. It's only when you did stage 2. What's going on here? Amar Abai says, I'll tell you very simply. Our Mishnah is talking, Abai is of the opinion that there's 2 kinds of shinui. A shinui that's irreversible, that is a valid shinui mehatorah. A shinui reversible is still a kinyan, but midrabanan. Our Mishnah wants to say a bigger chiddush that even a reversible shinui, taking wood that's already been smooth, if you take a piece of wood, a log, and you smooth it out, that's an irreversible shinui. Our Mishnah goes a step further. You took wood, you made a vessel out of it. You could always dismantle it. You take threads and you make a sweater out of it. You could always untangle it or unravel it. So our Mishnah is talking about a reversible shinui, and the Mishnah saying it's still a valid shinui. Bigger chiddush. Our Mishnah is talking about Tani shinui Rabbana, the 100th reversal. The Choshkin shinui is surely a shinui of the Torah. Eitzim wood. But us and kalim, wood you make kalim is be'etzim shufan. I'm talking about the wood that has been smoothed out. My ninu, what are we talking about? The planks, boards. The shinu, the hadul briyas, the chiddush na mishnah. These are reversible shinuyim, and yet it's a shini, at least with the rabban. The boy mashilu, you can just remove that. Tzemer, but also begadim. You took wool, you make clothing out of it. But tzemer top, we're talking about wool that's already spun. The shinu, the hadul briyas, you can always unravel it. So the chiddush na mishnah is that even though it's a reversible shinu, it's valid. The boy is sasali, once he can break it. The chosh gain surely a shinu de raisa. Of course, if it's an irreversible shinu, of course it's effective. The ton of bra and the ton of the brisa. The ton of brisa shinu de raisa ton. The ton of the brisa is talking about shinuyim that are recognized from the Torah. You're taking a log, you turn it into a piece of wood. And the shin rabban like tani, he's not talking about shinu de rabban. Rabbi Ashi comes along. And he says, Tana di don nami shinu deraisa. No, we're only talking about shinu deraisa. So therefore, many Rishonim understood Rav Ashi holds that a reversible shinu is not recognized, not from the Torah, not from the Rabbanim. This is only an irreversible shinu. So how come the Mishnah talks about you took already existing wood? So he said, on the other way around, taking a log and smoothing it out is actually a very weak shinu. Because you're not really doing much. It's the same piece of wood. You just made it smoother. That's not really a shini. So our Mishnah is talking about a proper shini. You took wood and you made a keli out of it in an irreversible way. You can't go back. Okay. The Bryce is talking about you took a piece of a log, let's say, and you smoothed it out. And that really is not a shini, right? But you know when's a shini? If, let's say, you took a piece of log and you smoothed it out to the extent that it now has the state, let's say you made a pestle out of it. So it has a name change. Or it's a keli right now, it's a vessel. And because it's not just you smooth it out and you created a new concept here, then it becomes a shini. That's what the Bryce is talking about. Tana did not have the Tana, but Mishnah the Rice talking. Eitzim wood for awesome keli. You know what the Bryce is talking about? Sorry, our Mishnah, that's Bryce. Our Mishnah. When our Mishnah says you took wood, you made keli, we're talking about buchoni, made a pestle. The hainu, what are we talking about here? The hainu shifra, it's the same thing. You smooth it out. I'm not talking about smoothing out, but we're talking about a particular case that when we're talking about eitzim, you took a log and you smooth it out. But you know when it's considered shini? If that smoothing out, the result of that process is that it became a pestle, it became a keli, has a new name, it's a keli, it's a new status. But if you would just smooth out and become a smooth board, that would not have been a shini. The hainu shifra, tzemer, wool. But awesome begadi, you make clothing. Now you're talking about, let's say, felt. Felt, all it is press. You don't wash it or anything else. You just press the wool together, and that is why is it valid? Why did you press together? Because it has a new name now. It's called felt. The hainushin lahada, it's irreversible. Now the one has a question. Okay, the Bryce said one of the examples the Bryce gives of a shinui is you take the wool and you wash it out. The libel may have a shini, just washing it out is considered a shini. But let me ask a question. It says, we learned already before, Reish is Hagaze, if the first shorn wool, if you have 5 sheep, the first, or goat, the first shorn wool of the 5, the aggregate, you have to give to a kohen. If the weight is equal to a mana and a mana and a half, you have to give it to a kohen. When you have an aggregate of 5. Let's say you have 5 sheep, but the first sheep, the wool, after you cut the wool off, you made a shinui in that wool. It's no longer the original wool. It no longer forms part of that combination of 5 sheep. But what's considered a shinui? So it says as follows: you didn't give it to the kohen yet until you dyed it. Dyeing it is considered a shinui. So therefore, it's no longer around. And when you go to the next animal, we don't combine the shearings of the first animal with this. It's no longer around. Let's say you washed it out and you didn't dye it, you're a chayiv. So it says here clearly what? Washing out alone is not considered a shinui, and therefore if you show the wool of 5 different animals, they all combine. So we see that washing is not a shinui. Contradiction to the first Bryce, where it said that washing out the wool is considered a shinui. It's no longer the original wool. It's actually a machlekes between Tanoim, like Kashi, Harab Shimon, Harab Banan. No problem. The Tanya we learned. Zaza, you shore the wool, you go ahead and you spin it, but organ, you wove it, ain mitzvah if it does not combine anymore because you made a proper shini. What about what happens? What happens? You washed it out. Rab Shimon says ain mitzvah washing out is considered a shini, it no longer combines. And Chachamim say no, that's not called a shini. Mitzvah it still combines. So it's machlekes tonight. Rava says I don't necessarily have to say it's a machlekes. Hava of Shimon. I can say it's all of Shimon. Well, like kasha. Depends how you wash it. Hard enough if you wash it by hand, that's not really a shini. That's when he says that it still combines. It's not a shini. Oh, when you will the brice on top of the page, that is, it's a valid shini. The sarke saruke used a fine comb, so he pulled out all the alien substances there, the foreign substances, and now it's totally clean. I'll give you another answer. Oh, you just wash it with water. That's not a proper shini. Oh, you wash it with water, you clean it down a shini. But if you use kinds of soap and chemicals, that's considered a proper shini. So there's no argument. There's different cases. Says the Mora, I don't understand. Hashta now. Yes, now that we can say Tseba that Rab Shimon a little before Rab Shimon said that dyeing it is not considered Shimon. Where do we find Rab Shimon saying dyeing is not a Shimon? If Rab Shimon says a dyeing, which is a bigger change, when you change the color, or you just wash it out. Surely changing the color. So now that we find elsewhere that Rab Shimon said, if you dye it, if you change the color, it's not considered shini. You're going to tell me that liban have a shini, but washing out is a shini? It doesn't make sense. The time of the brisa. Goes as an ishadishan, you shore the wool of one animal at a time. But sovet ishadishan, then you dye this thread one animal at a time. But tovet ishadishan, you go ahead and you spun one at a time. But oga, you wove aim is tarif. Each animal then is separate from the next one, the disparate animal, because you made a shini after each one. Rab Shimon ben Yehuda Aimim B'Shur Rab Shimon. Shimon means the name of Shimon. That's why if you dyed it, mitzvah. If you dyed it, it does combine because changing the color is not considered a shini. What's going on there? If changing the color of Shimon holds not a shini, how can he hold that washing it is a shini? So the Gemara, will say that two opinions what Rab Shimon held. The first brayse is Rabbanan according to Rab Shimon, who says that if you wash it out, it's considered a shini. And Rab Shimon ben Yehuda This is Yehuda that not only washing out is not a shini, even changing the color is not a shini. Rabba says no. It depends. Dye in a way is not as effective as washing. What do you mean? The shiny tzeva dye is different. You can always remove the dye. You put some right chemicals, it removes the dye. It's reversible. That's why it's not a shini. But once you wash it out, it's washed out. We learned elsewhere. What happened? You didn't have a chance. In the first price, it says, if you didn't have a chance to give the wool to the kohen until you put a dye. You just said that dye is not considered a change. Yet in the first bright, it's clear that dye is a change. Well, Kim the give you half, everyone agrees. So we answered, but color oven delay. That's a certain kind of a color. It's indigo, which is actually the very same color as chelis, and we call somebody who's a Russia, somebody who masquerades as if he's very frum. He walks around with his blue tzitzis, but it's actually not chelis. It is kol ilan. It's indigo, the sap of a tree, certain trees. So then, that's the color. That particular color is irreversible. The chemicals don't remove it. I want you to know that Rab Shimon ben Yehuda and Beis Shammai and Rab Eliezer ben Yaakov and Rab Shimon ben Elazar and Rab Yishmael, they are all of the opinion that Shinui b'mekayma make a change is still the item itself still belongs to the victim, and Shinui does not make it yours. Rab Shimon ben Yehuda said before, the Abai understood that if you dye, you change the color. It's a proper Shinui. He doesn't learn that because you can remove the dye. He said it's a proper color, and yet he says it's not. We don't recognize as a change. Why? Because the whole Shinui doesn't work. Beis Shammai Mai, what's Beis Shammai? The Tanya we learned. Even though Rab Shimon ben Yehuda only argues regarding dye, he agrees that if you spun the wool, you wove it, and all that, he agrees that's considered shini. So obviously he holds our levels of shini. Some shini are accepted, some are not. When Abaye says that these all hold the same, they're not exactly the same. You know, what's the point of having 6 different Tanoim saying the same thing? They're going down the same trajectory in different variations, but the general principle is the same. Certain shinuim don't work. Where's this Beis Shammai? We already had this Beis Shammai before. The Tanya, we actually learned that Dasan Lachitin Basnana, this harlot, you gave her a gift. You gave her wheat. Now you cannot bring this wheat to Mizbech. It's repugnant, it's repulsive. How can you? But Va'asan Sailor, she turned around and turned it into flour, converted it to flour. Zaytim Alas, Va'asan Shem oil, another great Va'asan wine and converted to wine. Tani Chadam, one price we learned Asher is forbidden. The Tanya Idach, another price is permitted. What's going on here? There was one price that says it's a shinui, and therefore it's no longer the original item. The other one says, no, we don't recognize the shinui. It came from the wheat, and therefore it's forbidden. What's going on? To me, Ugurian, the Maspaidik, Beis Shammai Oisin, and Beis Hillel Matin. It's an argument Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. My time at the Beis Shammai. Why does Beis Shammai say that shinui does not work? Because in this very pasuk, on Makra, it says a pasuk, it's an abomination. Gam shneim, also both. What do you mean also? Also what? Also comes to add something. So Beis Shammai says, Gam shneim, l'rabba shinuim. To include not only the original, but even if you change it, you alter it, it's still forbidden. Gam also included is what to make changes. And Beis Hillel, on Makra, it says in pasuk, shneihem, we read it as if it's two words, shnei, heim. Heim, only they are repugnant. V'lo shinuim, not if you make changes. So Beis Hillel holds shini is kainah, and Beis Shammai holds shini is not kainah. Well, Beis Shammai exceed heim, it says heim. He used the heim for something else. Heim, the loy villa the same. The offspring you can put on the mizbech. And Beis Hillel, Tarti Shammai, he learns two things. Heim, the loy shnei, if you alter it, it's no longer forbidden. And heim, the loy villa same. Only the original, not the offspring, it's no longer forbidden. Nu Beis Hillel nami it says gam. It says gam also wants to include what else is included in this prohibition. Gam, le Beis Hillel kasha. Yeah, that is a problem. What Beis Hillel is going to do with the gam, but doesn't in any way deter Beis Hillel from learning that shinui itself is kainah. Okay.